Hello students, today we are going to study the poem The Road Not Taken. But before we go through this poem, it's very important to have a quick glance on the background of this poem. Because throughout the poem, we'll see the poet remains in a state of indecision. He is quite indecisive and he faces a dilemma. So to understand this all, it's very important to have a quick glance on the background of the poem. That will help us to understand the poem better. As I said, Robert Frost was from America, but he spent quite a few years in England as well. And during his stay there from 1912 to 1915, he befriended a poet come soldier named Philip Edward Thomas. They became good friends and started going for evening walks. And one thing Robert Frost didn't like, in fact, in Mr. Thomas was whatever the road they would take to go for walk. Thomas never ever was happy with that. He would always wonder what other options or what other better opportunities the road not taken, might have offered them. Now let's talk about the theme of the poem. The theme of the poem is very, very important because it is related to our life. According to poet, sometimes we come across a situation in our life when we have a few options to choose from. Like having cleared 10th standard, you will also face this dilemma whether to go for humanities or you should go for commerce or you should follow the science stream. Similarly, quite often we have such situations in our life when we have few options to choose from. And on such occasions, we have to be very, very careful, very, very erudite and very, very cautious, because the decisions taken on such occasions may cast very long-lasting impact on our life. Now let's start the poem. First stanza. The two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveller, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. So in the first line itself, the poet is telling that once it was the autumn season, and he was traveling through a jungle, through a forest, and he reached on the road on such a point where the road diverged into two. Like he was traveling from this side and he reached on this point where the road was diverging into two, right? And he is using a term, a yellow wood. Yellow wood means autumn season. This is the metaphorical meaning of autumn season, because in autumn season all the leaves on the trees turn yellow. So he's using this term, a yellow wood, means the time of the season of the year when all the leaves on the trees were yellow. And sorry, I could not travel both. And he's saying that because he's one single individual, so he could not travel both the roads at the same time. Okay. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could. So for a long time, he kept on looking on the first road because he's not able to decide which road is better out of the two. So he is observing and trying to decide which road is better. And he is watching the first road up to the point where it is bending. Bending means turning, okay? Where it is bending in the undergrowth. Undergrowth is the actually weeds, the unwanted plants, grass, bushes that grow under the trees. So he is watching the first road up to a point where the road is bending in the undergrowth. Stanza 2. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. So in this stanza, the poet is saying, then he started looking at the second road and he found the second road equally good, means he thought both the roads are same, just as fair. Okay, in original poem actually it is a bit more complicated. It is as just as fair, but here to make it a bit simpler, first as has been dropped. So he's saying just as fair means the poet found the second road was equally good. Second line, and having perhaps the better claim. And now he's telling that second road had a better claim. Second road was more inviting than the first one. Why? And he replies this in third line. Because it was grassy and wanted weir. So here he gives the reason why he should travel on the second road. Because the second road was a little bit grassy and this road wanted weir. This road wanted weir means this road was appealing the people to travel on this road. Third line, though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. So here once again he is guessing, he's using his guess, and he feels that if we talk about estimation of how many people have traveled on both the roads, he feels on both the roads equal number of people have traveled. Suppose on first road 100 people have traveled, similarly on second road 100 people have traveled. So how he reached on this conclusion, let's see. Though as for the passing there had warned them really about the same, really about the same. So this gives us the clue that he is sure equal number of people have traveled on both the roads. Stanza 3. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. So in third stanza, he's telling about that specific morning when he was traveling in the forest, that morning both the roads were looking similar. On both the roads, the yellow leaves, the leaves which have fallen from the trees, were strewn on both the roads. They were looking similar, and nobody seemed to have traveled on either of the roads because the leaves were looking fresh. They were not appeared to have been trampled over, means nobody had stepped on them and soiled them black. Okay, next. Oh, I kept the first for another day. So now he has decided that on first road on some other day he will travel. This means he has decided to take the second road. Okay, yet knowing how way leads on to way. In fourth line he is showing a doubt that although he knew, the poet knew that on one road, if you start traveling, you will find yet another road leading somewhere else, and from that road, yet another road will lead somewhere else. So he is in a doubt whether ever in his life again he will get a chance to come back on the point where he could travel the first road once more. So he is in a doubt. Last stanza, fourth stanza. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So now he's talking about what will happen number of years down the line. Means after many years, I will be telling this to my future generations. Means the poet is thinking that to his future generations, probably to his children or to his great grandchildren, he will be telling this story, right? And what story? The same about this day when he faced this dilemma. Okay, somewhere ages and ages hence, means number of years later, two roads diverged in a wood. So he will be telling this story that two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And he will tell that I decided to travel on the road where there was more grass on the road, which means less number of people had traveled on this. Because I was adventurous, so I decided to travel on the second road, and that has made all the difference. And he's also saying that because of that decision of mine, all the changes have come in my life, right? But he's not telling whether the changes were positive or negative, whether he is happy with the decision or sad with the decision. Because in this entire poem, only one place is there where he could tell clearly whether he was happy or not with the decision, and that is the last stanza, first line, last word. I shall be telling this with a sigh. This is the word which could give a clear indication about his mental state. Okay, but a sigh can be a sigh of relief, so means he's happy, but at the same time a sigh can be a sigh of frustration. Oh my god, so it means he's not happy. So this poem is very tricky. Once Robert Frost himself said this to somebody during an interview, that this poem is very tricky. But as I told you in the background of this poem, that Robert Frost got the inspiration of writing this poem because he observed this thing in his friend Philip Thomas. He was not happy. Whichever the road they would take, he was never ever happy with that. So that's why Robert Frost wrote this poem, and he expressed his friend's mental state, how he used to behave. So this is why this poem is a little tricky. So I hope you have understood. If not, you can ask me later on. Thank you.